afternoon, everyone, and happy Monday. Welcome to Stock Market Today. Alyssa Corum and Justin Nielsen here to break down the action in today's session, where we saw a moderately mixed day. But Justin, great to see some strength underneath the surface without having to be worried about the indexes being too extended.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of our style of stocks were acting well, and so whenever we see that, it's kind of nice. So today we'll cover Nucor and Cloudflare and TAN, Invesco Solar ETF.
Great. Well, we will get to all that first. I'll look at the major indexes. Here is the NASDAQ, which finished in the green today, up about 0.2% on the downside. We had the Dow down 0.3%, the S&P down just 0.1%, and small caps, the Russell 2000 down 0.4%. So again, not worried, at least at this moment, about seeing the NASDAQ or QQQ too extended.
Right, exactly. This pause here is actually one of the things that we like to see, a little bit of constructive action. It's not like it's giving up any ground, it's showing resilience, but at the same time, it's not getting ahead of itself like we saw a little bit earlier in this summer, like in June and July. So when it starts getting really extended from the 50-day moving average line, it does give us a little bit of cause for concern on the short term that we could be due for a pullback. Now, again, if you're looking at the long-term perspective, these pullbacks, I mean, we just barely broke below the 21-day moving average line. We've been trending above the 50-day moving average line for a while here. And again, even the 21-day line for the most part, except for that one single day. So, it's a strong trend right now. It's if you're trying to play some of the short term, that can be a little bit trickier. But long term, I think things are really going in the right direction, especially for growth and tech.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of growth, let's check in on FFTY, which tracks the IBD 50 list of top growth stocks. So up about 0.6%, so outperforming on the day.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of point out, and this is something that happens sometimes where you might see moderate action in the indexes, whereas growth, which a lot of times we'll use FFTY as kind of a proxy for growth, can do well. Now, sometimes that can be due to certain individual stocks in there. I mean, you look at the action of Moderna and BioNTech and some of these, and if they're in the index, that can really skew to the positive side. But overall, I think we've been seeing much more positive action in FFTY and its components, whereas before we were seeing a lot of strength in the indexes, and that was because of Google and Microsoft and your trillion-dollar club. Now it seems like there's a little bit more action in the growth names, more of them, as opposed to just those trillion-dollar market cap leaders.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about Nucor, ticker NUE, a steel stock that stood out today, up 3.4% on the day. Some nice volume behind the move here, Justin. And this is a stock that had a rip-roaring move from the beginning of the year, peaking at 110 in late May, early June, and went on to build a nice base. It's carving the right side of the base, but also today potentially actionable.
Yeah, so it's really funny when you talk about, some of your leaders of the year and to think of a steel stock. That's not where we generally look, right? But I've got to hand it to you and Ed. You brought up Cleveland-Cliffs, the setup that was going on there on Friday, and that's really important. What people need to realize is you don't want to just be looking at these stocks when they break out. You want to be looking at them when they set up. So what you were noticing in Cleveland-Cliffs, and Ed said this, look, this is what a lot of these stocks look like right now. And Nucor was among them. So Friday was your day to kind of get ready. Then Monday, all you have to do is set your line. And once you see it cross that line, it's actionable for you. And so Nucor was just one of the many steel stocks that looked actionable today. And as you mentioned, the volume was there. We ended up putting this on Swing Trader. This was certainly one of the stronger stocks of the year in the steel industry. And you can see it only really gave you kind of a couple times to buy into it. You had the early entry at the beginning of the year, and then that entry that you just pointed out was very nice in March, April. Steel Dynamics, I think, had a similar move like similar. That, and then it was off to the races again. So can we capture that lightning in a bottle again? I don't know, but this setup certainly looks promising and worth giving it a shot.
Yeah, promising indeed. And what about the setup for Cloudflare, ticker NET, an enterprise software name that we've been tracking on a nice move from lows that really began around the last quarterly report in early May? Kicked off a nice move. We got a pullback here, reversal,
Mhm.
buying opportunity there. Another chance to get in today.
Yes, I think so. And again, I like this more as a follow-on buy idea. This is something that I've been holding on to for a while. I've actually had to kind of sell my shares because we put it on Swing Trader a few times, and then I'm restricted for half an hour, and then I buy it back. Because I want to recapture my position. So that's what I did today. We actually put this on Swing Trader. I sold my shares, and then half an hour later, I bought them back and a little bit more because, again, I was looking at this as a follow-on buy opportunity. Now, you could look at it as a short-term trading opportunity. We kind of call this pattern, look, it's not long enough to be a base. What you're showing there, that's only a little bit over a week. So that's not long enough to be a base, but it has this kind of look of a base, right? So we sometimes will call this a little shelf, right?
Mhm.
It's not a structure in and of itself, but it has a little shelf here that is formed. And so again, we can look at this as something where we do a follow-on buy or a swing trade. And so we put it on Swing Trader. But for me personally, I'm trying to go for a longer move on this one. And so I just added a few shares to what I previously had.
Well, it's in a great group and
Yes.
very strong technical action over the last couple
I
of
will say
months.
there is one thing that we're kind of being a little forgiving here for Cloudflare. It does not have earnings.
Yes, not profitable.
This is one of those companies that is doing a lot in terms of reinvesting back into their business. And so they have taken the, tack of, look, we're not so concerned about profits right now. We are concerned about building our business, and we know that the profits will come later. It's
Mhm.
kind of like what Amazon did when it was first coming out 20 years ago.
Sure. And traditional canned slim traders may be, saying, hey, hey, hey now to that. But our research has shown that the market has rewarded companies with strong top line growth. And we are seeing that for Cloudflare for sure.
Absolutely, and it has a good story. This is not something that's a flash in the pan. It's building a solid business here, and it's something that we actually use at the
Mhm.
company ourselves. So we have a little bit more knowledge because of that, being a customer.
Right. And maybe nearing profitability. We'll have to see if and when they're able to turn a
Mhm.
profit. But let's take a look at TAN now, Justin. Solar stocks. Talk about a hot group in 2020. Solar was it. It's taken a pretty big break for
Mhm.
this year, trying to come off of its lows. Do you think that we potentially could be getting an early entry here for solar?
Well, and just like you and Ed put the steel stocks on people's radar on Friday, I wanted to put this on the radar for people. Not necessarily something that you're going to jump into right now, but as I was going through my own screening, I just noticed a lot of stocks in this group, in clean energy in general, that were looking interesting. And a couple things that are a little bit different about this: it's still below its 200-day moving average line.
Right.
That's not usually where we're fishing. And it's also gotten resistance at that level. You saw just recently it hit that line and then turned back. It also has the 50-day moving average line below the 200-day moving average line. And again, that's just a function of the fact that this pulled back so much, as you referred to, Ali. But if this is something that can have a new resurgence, it could go again. So that's something to look at. And if you start seeing it get back above that 200-day line or kind of cross this trend line, if you started at 93.49 and kind of there you go, exactly how you're doing it, hitting those tops. If you see it cross above that line, that could be something that's actionable. It's going to be hitting not only that trend line, but also the 200-day moving average line. So something to just put on people's radar. If it happens, it
Mhm.
could be actionable. If it doesn't, then hey, you don't play it and you don't get hurt.
Mhm.
No problem.
Yeah. And we are always talking about setting alerts. You mentioned with steel stocks, whenever you're doing research, it doesn't hurt to draw a trend line and get an alert because we are looking at so many stocks and ETFs all day, every day that it can
Right.
be very helpful
Right.
to put it back on your radar.
One final note on this Invesco Solar ETF. One of the reasons why I do like sometimes playing the ETF rather than the individual stocks
Yes.
is sometimes it's hard to know who the leader is, and they can actually trade, whereas TAN can kind of capture the group move. And one thing to just be aware of, TAN does tend to be a little bit more volatile as opposed to other ETFs. So while you are getting diversification amongst names, you are still very tied to solar. And so you will see some extra volatility, more like an individual stock than an
Mhm.
ETF. So you just have to kind of know what you're getting into.
Yeah, more volatile than other ETFs, but potentially a lot less volatile than those individual
Than the
names in the
individuals.
group.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Justin, thank you so much for all of that today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow on IBD Live. David Bryan making his weekly Tuesday appearance. What educational lesson will he provide? Make sure to tune in, investors.com/IBD Live. Always some great content that you can take beyond the daily live stream every day on IBD Live. So we hope you tune in. Once again, investors.com/IBD Live. Thanks, Justin, and we will see everyone tomorrow.